All right, welcome back to the Wide Ride Podcast. I'm Manny Navarro of The Athletic. He is Carlos Ledo. What's the title today, Carlos?
Take a look down there. Can you see it?
I can. It's too small type for me.
Sufferer of triple D, Dolphins distress disorder.
Yeah, the Dolphins have been absolutely horrendous, brother. But what else is new, right? I mean, that's been that franchise for a long time now.
Yeah, man, it's just like I don't understand it. Like I knew this season was going to be rough. I knew it was going to be sort of a decline at this point. But man, a couple of years ago, you thought you got Tyreek Hill, you've got Tua playing well, and then all of a sudden it just all hits the fan. Once Tua hit the ground and he started getting concussed, it was all over. And Mike McDaniel went from genius to looking like a moron. There's no other way to put it. That's where we are today.
Yeah, the Dolphins and the Hurricanes couldn't be at further opposite sides of the spectrum right now. And you think about Mario and McDaniel basically taking over right around the same time, right? And restarting and trying to get these two football teams headed in the right direction. One guy's clearly doing it. The other one is not. Hurricanes absolutely crush USF last weekend, 49-12, covered the 17.5-point spread. And showed me something, Carlos. They showed me that they're totally focused and that they are ready for whatever challenge comes ahead. Now, they're 3-0. They're ranked number 4 in the country. Some people think they should be number 1. How do you stand after last week's beatdown of the Bulls?
Well, listen, we talked about it last week. I said they had to go in there and kill a mosquito with an axe to prove a point, right? They went in there and they did that. We also said that I thought this was a terrible matchup for USF. I thought, all of their weaknesses were playing into the hands of the Hurricanes, and that was pretty evident on Saturday. USF was able to get away with turning people over and taking advantages of those turnovers and actually getting big plays also on their offensive side, and they weren't able to do any of that. They got a couple turnovers on Carson Beck in the game, but it came at too late of a point in the game, and they weren't able to turn that into points. The difference between this year's Hurricanes team, I think, and last year's is clearly the defense, the secondary specifically. I think that third quarter lull gave USF some opportunities to get back in that game, but they couldn't take advantage of it with their offense. They just couldn't score points. And I think that's the difference between this year and last year. I think last year, we've seen situations like that last year where teams were able to get back in the game on the Hurricanes and sometimes beat them because of it. Because their defense wasn't good enough to hold them, right, to stop them from going in there and taking advantage and make runs against the Hurricanes. I think this year the defense proved something to me that they're capable of slamming the door shut when the offense is struggling. So now it's more of a balanced team than it was a year ago. That's what I see.
Yeah, and I basically wrote as much when I did my 10 questions for The Athletic this week. I tackled 10 different topics, and number 1 was, can Notre Dame rebound and still make the playoff, which I think is obvious. The answer is yes. Of course, Miami beat and Texas A&M beat in a thriller last weekend. But the second question is Miami a legitimate national title contender? And I think that because of their defense, they are now. And I don't know that there is a clear-cut number 1 team in the country right now. I think Ohio State has the history of winning last year's national championship. They still have the best, I think, offensive player in college football, Jeremiah Smith, and they still have a really good defense. But Texas is clearly taking a step back. Arch Manning isn't what we thought he was going to be. Alabama already lost to Florida State. Georgia's defense just gave up 41 points to Tennessee. This is I think the third time in the last calendar year, Kirby Smart's defense has given up a ton of points. So when I look at this nationally, Carlos, the way Miami is playing on the offensive and defensive lines, the way that they have a legitimate, potentially best defensive player in the country in Ruben Bain right up front, causing all kinds of havoc, an improved secondary, a steady quarterback in Carson Beck, who is now the Heisman favorite, by the way, from BetMGM. He is now plus 700 to win the Heisman, best odds of anybody in college football. Everything is coming together, and here come the desperate Florida Gators and Billy Napier to Hard Rock Stadium this weekend, and nothing could break Kane's hearts more if DJ Lagway, fresh off of 5 interceptions at LSU, figures things out and humbles Miami this weekend. We'll talk about that game here in a few minutes. We'll talk about, breaking down some more of the way things have sort of worked out with Miami's roster. I've got all kinds of charts and stuff to show here while you and I talk about it. But I guess my question to you is, Carlos, after 3 weeks, are the Canes going to win the national championship?
Okay, wow. Let's just segue into let me throw this. If you get the wrong answer, I'll be honest, I don't know. And to me, the whole ranking stuff right now doesn't make a difference. They're in perfect positions to make the playoff, and once you're in the playoffs, that's all that matters because you got a shot to win it all. So as long as you're 1 through 12, that's all that matters to me. I don't care. Guys get all caught up on why aren't we number 1? Why aren't we number 2? Why aren't we ranked higher? None of that shit matters, man. Honestly, at the end of the day, as long as you got a shot to go in there and prove yourself against everybody else in the playoff, that's all that matters. I don't care about national accolades, respect, none of that, because the Hurricanes don't get it anyway, right? And when they do, it seems like they almost do it with sort of an evil tint behind it. They're doing it sort of with what we call in Cuban language, mal de ojo, right? The evil eye. They want the Hurricanes and say well, but they're doing it with a little smirk behind it, hoping that they fail ultimately, right? And that's what they want. So to me, rankings. Now, are they good enough to win a national championship based on what we've seen so far across the country? Yes, I think they are good enough. Now, all that, of course, there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's not just how well they've played up to this point. Is it sustainable throughout the season? Do they stay healthy? And do other teams emerge, right? And again, it's the same thing as we talked about with USF. It's not just about how good you are. It's also about a matchup. If you get a matchup against a team that sort of plays counter to what your strengths are and is able to neutralize a lot of your strengths, and is able to hang with you in a game that they shouldn't, then that's a problem. You never know. It depends on the draw. It depends on the matchup. But I think there's an open opportunity here. I think Arch Manning, his arm strength does not look like what he used to. It looks like he might have a shoulder injury to me, the way he's throwing the football. That or he did not inherit the Manning arm strength from Eli and the other thing to me, I think Michigan's been very disappointing. I think DJ Lagway and Bryce Underwood are the two most disappointing quarterbacks in the country right now. You expected them to be superstars to lead their teams to the next level and to lead them on to big seasons, and neither one has produced. Lagway specifically, I thought was going to be what saved the Florida Gators this season and help them push forward. And he's actually been one of the things that's held them back a little bit this season. So when you talk about can DJ Lagway come in here and break the Hurricanes' hearts, I think there's more of a chance that Dan Marino returns, substitutes for Tua in the starting lineup, and leads the Dolphins to
Wow. All right. We'll talk about the Gators in a bit, Carlos, but I wanted to sort of take a national look because Miami is in that conversation right now. And there are people coming out and saying that they're the best team in the country. And I get it. They got to win over Notre Dame in the opener, and they just beat a USF team soundly that some people were thinking, including me, that maybe this is the G5 favorite. But now, the picture changes every week. The goalposts move every week, right, nationally. The Big Ten is going to start to get into their schedule. We really haven't, outside of Ohio State beating Texas, the Big Ten has yet to play anybody. It feels like the next biggest win for the Big Ten is Illinois winning at Duke in terms of sort of the Power 4 structure. So we'll get some Big Ten matchups here in the next few weeks, including Penn State and Oregon. We'll get a feel for those teams. But I think if Miami beats Florida and in 2 weeks wins on the road in Tallahassee to be 5-0 against a top 10, what should be a top 10, maybe top 5 Seminoles team, I think they're going to be number 1 in the country. And I think there's a chance that people are going to jump on the bandwagon in huge waves, even more so than right now.
We don't want them. We don't want them. Get out of here. I don't want to see you. I don't want to hear from you. You haven't been here. If you weren't here when I was sitting here eating shit sandwiches, right? During the Kyle Wright era, during the Stephen Morris era, during the Kirby Freeman era, during the Derek Crudup post-national championship era, if you weren't there eating shit sandwiches by my side with me, having to eat all this up, watching them get destroyed in the Peach Bowl by LSU, do not come now. Watching the Orange Bowl get shut down with
48-0.
48-0 shellacking by the Virginia Cavaliers of all teams. Please do not come now and tell me you've been a Hurricane fan during all this time, because I don't want to see you. I will slap you. I will backhand pimp slap you. I won't, but I mean, theoretically, figuratively, I will.
All right, let's start breaking down this team a little bit more, Carlos. I'm going to throw some graphics up. Listen, I'm sharing some of my notes here. I'm sharing the giant spreads that I do for every breakdown of rooms. And right now, I'm just focused on the Hurricanes. Let's talk about the Hurricanes before we get to the
I love it when you spread it open.
All right, hold on a second. I'm gonna flash the graphics here. Bear with me.
Listen, And this is why I enjoy doing a podcast with you, because it's kind of like sitting next to the smart kid in school. You don't study, but you get the advantages of the other person who does study, and you
Right,
seem smart.
right, right,
It's
right.
osmosis.
All right, let's start off with Miami's quarterback and running back rooms, Carlos. Obviously, a huge performance by Carson Beck, but he did throw 2 interceptions. The one thing that he has proven here, he leads the country in completion percentage. When they block for him, Carlos, he is probably the best quarterback in the country. When he feels a little bit of pressure, and he hasn't really felt much of it to this point, he can make mistakes. And you saw him do that against USF. He sort of had a ball that the first interception where the linebacker drifted back. I think he got hit as he was throwing it. And then he made sort of a bad decision to throw the ball to Malachi Tony, or not to Malachi Tony. He was aiming for Tony Johnson, but Malachi Tony, it was within reach of Malachi Tony. He figured out Malachi Tony has a 50-inch vertical and deflected that ball. So he made 2 mistakes, but I think overall, Carlos, and to me, the biggest thing is Carson Beck is a leader. He's viewed as a leader in this locker room. He is not a divisive player. In fact, I asked Mark Fletcher after the game what the difference is between him and Cam Ward, and his answer was skin color. That's it. What are your thoughts here as you as you digest that commentary?
So yeah, I mean, I agree with him. That's true. That's a big difference. But I mean, I think something that Beck showed this week was his athleticism. I love the fact that he's not scared to pull it on the zone read, because now defensive ends have to actually worry and account for him in the run game, which is going to help the running backs out as well, because now the defensive ends can't crash on every zone read. So the other thing is, he's been very calm, very steady back there. He doesn't look like he gets flustered. He's very even keeled throughout the game. He does have a tendency, like we've seen in every game so far, to throw a couple balls to get away from him and make a couple bad decisions outside of his laser accuracy, which is very strange because he's incredibly efficient, incredibly accurate, very smart with the football 98% of the game. But then he has always like 2 plays where it sort of goes away. He's been bailed out a couple times, like that C.J. Daniels catch against Notre Dame and a couple other ones where plays like that have been made, or things that maybe interceptions have been dropped that didn't hurt us ultimately because it wasn't completed. But this game, it was those 2 interceptions. But luckily, it came at a point in the game where it didn't make a difference, and the defense also slammed the door on USF. But to me, I think he's better than I expected. I expected him to be good. I didn't expect him to be playing at an elite level, which I believe he's doing right now.
He really is. And when you look at, Emory Williams came into that game and ran an interesting RPO concept where he threw the ball right before he crossed the line of scrimmage late in the game to lead a touchdown drive late. Overall, I think the quarterbacks have looked really good, and not that I necessarily trust Emory Williams to lead this team to a national championship if God forbid something happens to Carson Beck. But I think he does look a little bit better than he did a year ago. And I also
Yeah.
think, Miami's done a good job to this point finding balance between the pass and the run. Obviously, Mark Fletcher had a huge day in this game. Should have had 3 touchdowns. Got one of them essentially called back, but played terrific. Jamar Brown has been a great addition. And, this week Jordan Lyle will be back. So we'll get a chance now to start to see just how good this running game is. But through 3 games, the balance, I really like the balance that I've seen from this team.
And I think that's what they needed. I think they needed to sort of take the pressure off of Carson Beck and help him get acclimated to the new offense and the new system. But he's doing incredibly well. I think anytime you could take the pressure off a quarterback with a great running game, it helps. And it also makes you as an offense more dangerous because you can control a game from different ways, right? If you're running up against a team that has a great run defense and shuts you down, then your quarterback can go out there and make plays, and vice versa. If you got a team with a great secondary and maybe a weak run defense, you can go out there and dominate the game that way. And ultimately, at the end of the game, what you want to do is just hunker down, run clock, and physically take over the football game, which the Hurricanes have been doing week to week so far.
My biggest question going into week 3 is, are we going to start to see some wide receiver depth emerge? And when you look at the way that these guys played this past week, Carlos, I thought they did a really good job. We saw Josh Moore, the freshman, catch the first 2 touchdown passes of the game, basically ripped the ball away from the defensive back in the end zone, didn't allow him to get it taken from him. He looked terrific. I thought Tony Johnson emerged, right? Here's a guy that Miami got from Cincinnati that we didn't really know, is he going to contribute? He did a good job. creating a big play in the middle of the field. Proved that he has some value to him. Obviously, the usual suspects showed up, right? Malachi Tony did his thing. CJ Daniels did his thing before he kind of got knocked out there, I think, for precautionary reasons with a bit of a shoulder issue. But I feel better about this receiver room. I think the first two games we hit it on the head. Those two guys, Tony and Daniels, were playing really, really well. But it was good to sort of see, hey, this receiver deeper, and we're starting to see that.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see that because it's now you see that it's not just Carson Beck wanting to focus in on two guys. It's these other guys that maybe weren't getting as open as they needed to be in the first couple of games, but they decided they stepped it up here against USF, and Carson Beck found them. So it's not something where Beck isn't wanting to look somebody's way. It's him processing and seeing what's in front of him, which is good to see. He's not forcing the ball. He's going to the guys that are open and taking what's given to him out there on the field.
Yeah, the one thing that we still have yet to really see is the tight ends get going. You look at the numbers. Malachi Tony's leading the team with 18 catches for 228 yards. Daniels is next, 14 catches, 175, and Keelan Marion, 10 catches, 117. But you look at the tight end position. Luka Gilbert has 2 catches for 37 yards. Elijah Lofton, 4 catches for 36 yards. Again, I don't know what's going on with Elijah Lofton. I expected more production from him. But you look at the snap counts and the starts, he's actually played less than Alex Bauman, the transfer that they got from Tulane to come in here and provide veteran leadership. And Bauman isn't necessarily a pass catcher unless he's in the red zone. He's only got 2 catches for 12 yards. But all in all, like I still think they're saving Lofton for something. There's probably a whole layer of the playbook that we haven't seen yet from these guys.
I think part of the reason is in this offense and the way Mario wants to run it along with Rashan and Dawson, but really specifically Mario. To them, the tight end has to be able to do more than just catch the football. They have to be able to get in line and block, right? You saw it with Elijah Arroyo last year. He wasn't just a one-dimensional guy. He could also block and be physical at the point of attack, and that's why he got all those snaps and still got opportunities also in the passing game because he was on the field more. Elijah Lofton, if he's only half a player in terms of his ability to block and catch the football, if he can only do one of those two, then he's not going to get as many snaps. They tried to run some stuff for him against Bethune. This game, they really didn't go in terms of trying to draw something specific for him. But whatever he gets, he's going to have to make opportunities and make it count because that way he gets more opportunities after that. But he's more than anything, he's going to have to be a dominant blocker at the line of scrimmage to be able to continue to get more snaps out there on the field. And I think that's the difference.
Yeah, we will see what happens to this point, but they're choosing to go big and block versus use those tight ends in space. I'm sure we will see, though, some wrinkles from Shannon Dawson ahead. Let's go to the offensive line, Carlos. Looking at some of the performances there, obviously the same starting 5 for all of the games. Matthew McCoy continues to start at left guard, but when you look at the total snaps, Samson Okunlola is playing more than he is right now, and 120 to 97 there at left guard. And the good thing is, what I like about what Mario's doing here early on in this season is getting the rest of the guys on that offensive line some snaps, including the 2 freshmen.
Yeah, and I love what he's doing with Okunlola, mixing him in there at guard. I know Okunlola probably wants to be a left tackle because that's where the money is. Obviously, the left tackles are big money like quarterbacks are in the NFL. But he's, I think, to date, I've said that a bunch of times, he's significantly better at guard than McCoy is. I mean, even last game against USF, the pass block grades were hugely different. McCoy had a 42 pass block grade, while Okunlola had an 83. I don't know that Okunlola's – I think he's given up like 1 pressure or 2 pressures the entire season thus far at guard. He's played very well. The offensive line, I think, has gelled well together, now mixing in Okunlola in the new center. And I think moving forward, the more snaps you see Okunlola get at guard, the better they're going to be. But I think overall, mixing in everyone else to help them get snaps and get some game experience is going to be valuable down the road in case there's an injury.
Yeah, it certainly will be. Let's go ahead and flip over to the defensive line where Ruben Bain, we've told you he's playing like a superstar right now. Some people are thinking he's a top 5 pick, not just a first rounder. He's got 1.5 sacks. Keem Mesidor is leading the team with 2 sacks. Ahmad Moten's got 1. Booker Pickett, the freshman, has 1. And Armando Blunt got credit for half of a sack here. They look like an angry pack of bees out there right now, Carlos. I love the energy that they're playing with on that side of the ball.
Yeah, their defensive line is tough. And look, if you look at just the run defensive scores, Ahmad Moten's got an 89.1 last week against USF. Akeem Mesidor, 84.6. Ruben Bain, 82.6. So they're not just pass rushers. They're all-around defensive ends, which is something I love. They're not just specialists. They go out there and they can actually defend the point of attack. They could set the edge on the line of scrimmage, and they could be more than a one-dimensional defensive end. And that's going to bring it brings a lot of help to the defense, allowing the linebackers to make plays, but it also helps because they're not expected. The offensive line doesn't know what to expect. They don't know whether this guy's just going to come off the edge and come on a speed rush, bull rush, or try and set the edge on a run play. And if you try to run at him, you're going to be in trouble because it's not just a weak defensive end that's out there that's 6'5", 230 that's just a pass rush specialist.
Well, and I would say the other thing that they did a great job of was staying in their gap lanes and not allowing Byron Brown to destroy them with the run game. I mean, they were – how many times have we seen defensive linemen get out of their run fits, out of their gap assignments, and just allow a big play to rip open? This is kudos to Corey Heatherman in terms of teaching them and getting them to stay disciplined. That is not easy to do. Everybody wants to eat. Everybody wants sack numbers. Everybody's thinking about their next NIL deal and their next pro contract and how much money they can make. And yet you see these guys play, they're playing team defense, Carlos.
And that's ultimately what translates to the NFL. You're seeing these two guys, to me, play like NFL defensive ends. And we talked about it last week, doing exactly that, being disciplined in the rush lanes, not pushing upfield and allowing Brown to get the edge and get around. If he's going to scramble, force him to scramble up the middle of the field to go into the help. And they did all of that. They did an excellent job on defense.
Yeah, Justin Scott, the 5-star who I said was going to be key to this season, is playing a lot. Obviously, David Blay and Ahmad Moten are playing the most at D tackle, but he's got the 5th most snaps on the team. Armando Blunt is coming in. You're starting to see his impact. Lightfoot, who we mentioned earlier, Donta Simpson, the true freshman, and Herbert Scroggins, the true freshman. Both of those guys are getting reps. And, not that I want to bring up something negative here, Carlos, but people always ask us all the time in the mailbag, hey, Manny, who do you think is going to enter the transfer portal, right? and we're reaching the 4th game of the season, which is usually the telltale sign. Carlos, if you just look at the snap charts, can you not tell who's going to enter the transfer portal or who might be a candidate to do that? I mean, if you're not playing and you're just not getting snaps, that's the way that it works. And it's just the way college football is now. But I want people to see this information that I'm sharing and look at it and analyze it and understand it, because this is how we, reporters do our homework. We track everything and reach out and call people and talk to people. But it's real simple. You can do this at home too. If you've got Pro Football Focus subscription, you can look at snap counts for everybody in the country and see who's doing what. I just happen to take it up a notch with more detail with, 247 rankings and year in school and et cetera, when I do.
Because Manny's extra.
Because I'm extra. Exactly. All right, let's move over to the linebacker.
The snap counts are like that old meme, dead giveaway.
Dead giveaway. You're right about that. All right, linebacker. Wesley Basainth has done, I think, a really good job. When you looked at the few mistakes that Miami's defense has made this season, I think Basainth has played excellent. And I don't know what the PFF scores are. You would have them in front of you. I think the guys who have actually made more mistakes are guys like Mohamed Torre, who came in from Rutgers, has played the most at the linebacker position. And this is just me watching the game with my naked eye. I don't sit there and break down film. I think Chase Smith has been absolutely fantastic. All things considered, where he is in his career, I think he's been a great sort of, I don't want to say emergence, but certainly because he played some last year, Carlos. It's not like Chase Smith didn't play last year. But this is different. He actually has a role. He's ahead of Jalen Alderman. He's ahead of Cam Pruitt. Cam Pruitt is the guy we kept hearing about, right? Cam Pruitt's going to blow up. He's going to have a huge year. Kellen Wiley, the freshman. Right now, Chase Smith is keeping those guys off the field.
Yeah, and it's good to see, man. It's sometimes it takes a while for it to, fall into place for a guy, for things to just snap and say, okay, this is the moment. This is the time, and it's working out for him. Basainth has been good. He's been okay. Believe it or not, Chase Smith's numbers in terms of Pro Football Focus have been better. I talked about it before the season started that I think we both agreed that Basainth needed to take that next step forward to be that superstar at linebacker, that big-time playmaker that he was recruited to be. And so far he's been okay, but he hasn't been that yet. He's been steady, he's been solid, but he hasn't taken that step to be a superstar linebacker. Right now, I think they have a bunch of guys that can play that are good. There's not one person that's over the top excellent so far. There's not like an elite linebacker on that team, but they've all been steady and solid and good enough for them to keep picking up W's and play well on defense. And that's a testament again to Corey Heatherman.
Yeah, no, listen, they're playing team defense. Ruben Bain leads the team with 15 tackles. Mesidor's next with 13, and then Aguirre and safety Jacoby Thomas have 10. So those are the 4 guys with double-digit tackles. Let's take a look at the secondary right now, Carlos, where really, I mean, look, they've given up 8 pass plays of 20 yards or more, that group has. But looking at snaps, looking at opportunities and production, the safeties, that was our number one concern coming into this year. I think Jacoby Thomas has made some good plays, but there's also been times where he was a second late or in the wrong spot. And again, eight pass plays of 20 yards or more. Florida's strength is their passing game. I know DJ Lagway has not played well to this point, having the 5 turnovers at LSU, but they have really good receivers, and we'll take a look at Florida's roster in a little bit. But that's the one area that I look at this game and I say, how do the Gators win this game against Miami? Those receivers have to blow up and make big plays. And I think, while Miami's cut down on the errors, it's not completely gone yet.
Like my friend and the legend Lee Corso would say, not so fast, my friend. So the problem with that is the Gators, if they want to make big plays in the passing game and be able to throw the ball down the field, they have to have a quarterback that can do it. Right now, you know what DJ Lagway's completion percentage is on throws of 20 yards or more? 14%.
Yeah, 14%. Not good.
No bueno. And he's got 3 interceptions with 0 touchdowns. So my boy is basically just throwing hand grenades down the field and hoping it lands somewhere, right? He's not actually accurate down the field. He's playing horseshoes and hand grenades is what he's doing. As far as the secondary is concerned from the Hurricanes, we talked about it. I think the safeties can play better. I think they've had some miscues. I think they're okay. They're better than they were a year ago. I'm thankful for that. But I think that's the one area in the secondary that still concerns me a little bit. But I think, Keontae Scott to me has been great in that nickel spot. Not only has he been good in coverage to me, he's got a 72.5 coverage grade overall for the season, but him coming up and being in the run support, also in the pass rush, he's been physical at the line of scrimmage, at the point of attack, which is great to see from a guy that you play in that nickel spot. I think Xavier Lucas has been good in coverage. OJ Frederic has been very good to me. Damari Brown has been solid. He's been good as well. So I think they've really taken a step forward in the secondary.
Yeah, and the guy who I'm going to be watching closely here going forward is Bryce Fitzgerald. We talked about him getting his first pick against Bethune-Cookman. Once again, Johnny on the spot did a great job being in the right spot when USF tried to run its favorite play, which is essentially a screen pass or a dump-off pass right behind the offensive line, and he was there to make a pick. Miami, I don't think, was able to turn that one into points, unfortunately. But, again, second interception. This guy's a true freshman. He's played 67 snaps, got here in the summer, wasn't even around for spring football, and yet it looks like he is going to be a real one for the Canes.
Yeah, only 2. He's got the only 2 picks on the season for the Canes.
Yeah, and it's something innate. He knows where to be, and we've talked about the safety position. Poyser and Thomas have been okay to solid. I think Fitzgerald is the one that you look at and you say, man, that guy might be special.
He could be this year's OJ Frederic.
Could be. All right, Carlos, I'm going to get back to our conversation here, and we can start talking about the Florida Gators and the head-to-head matchup against them here. I'm going to flash a little graphic. Don't freak out. I'm gone high tech here.
Let's see what's going on here. Oh, look at this.
Look at that graphic there, Carlos. It's called The Tale of the Tape, with a little photo of DJ Lagway and Carson Beck. So a lot of information there. Number one, Florida's 1-2 coming in this game. Hurricanes 3-0. You look at the scoring offenses, where they rank.
Hey, but listen, the Gators might be 1-2, but they beat Long Island. All right? Let's not downplay that win.
Here's the key to the game and what I wrote about when I did my oddly specific predictions for the Athletic. Gators only have 2 sacks so far this season, Carlos, as a unit. Carson Beck has all day to throw against most teams. And we'll look at Florida's defense here in a minute. I've got their roster breakdown as well, but just not getting the kind of production they need there. Now, I will give them credit for this. LSU only scored 20 points against them. USF only scored 18 points against them, and Long Island didn't score any. So the defense is keeping them in games. It's just DJ Lagway can't stop making mistakes, and they can't stop making penalties. They've had a ton of penalties that hurt them in that USF game. Billy Napier talked about it. He feels like his team is just a few plays away, probably 5 interceptions and 11 penalties away from being 3-0. But the reality is they were in those games, and they should probably be 3-0, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I love saying this phrase, and I know I haven't said it in a while on the show, I don't think. If my grandmother had testes, she'd be my grandfather. So take that into account, Billy. Woulda, shoulda, coulda. But I think you're right. I think that the Gators defense is solid. They're good enough to keep them in games, and they obviously played at an SEC level, holding a team like LSU to only 20 points after 5 interceptions, having to turn around and play hard
I
that
think
way.
One of those was a pick six, wasn't it? I think one of those was a pick six.
So to me, it's a situation where they can clearly play defense at a high level, and being stuck out there on the field for a long time because obviously their offense isn't getting any points over the last couple games. So they're formidable. They're formidable on defense. But the problem is DJ Lagway in that offense. Can they get anything going? I think if I'm the Gators, like we were just talking about earlier, I try to take the pressure off DJ Lagway and run the football a little bit more. They've got a good running back and ball. They've got a guy that's averaging over 6.7 yards a carry, I think 6.8, somewhere in that range. Try and take that pressure off DJ Lagway. Use play action. Use DJ Lagway's legs a little bit to try and get him, off and running. Maybe get him a little bit loose. Get some more yards for the offense and move the chains. But, I think ultimately the only way the Gators win this game is they're going to need to create turnovers, win the turnover battle, not commit penalties, and hope the Hurricanes commit a bunch of mistakes. Because ultimately, on paper and so far on the field in terms of projection, the Hurricanes are the much better team.
Yeah, there's no questioning it. I mean, Miami has proven it against 2 ranked teams. They're the only team that has 2 wins over ranked opponents in terms of being ranked at the time that they played them and still being ranked now. Miami is. Game is still ranked. I think they came in at 24 or whatever at the end of the AV top 25 poll because of the fact they're 0. But I think most of us can agree that Notre Dame is pretty good. USF is starting still there for the G5 at large spot. Let's take a little closer look here at the Gators. I'm going to throw their quarterback room and running back room up here so you can see some of the names. Their backup quarterback, the true freshman, who they signed, Tramel Jones. Nate was asked at the press conference this week if he would sit DJ Lagway if he struggled again, and basically his answer was no. Like, they're basically riding with Lagway here till the wheels fall off.
Paid him too much money, baby.
Yeah, and that's obviously a big part of it. You mentioned the backfield for the Gators. Jaden Baugh has gotten the bulk of the work, but they've also got Jacoby Jackson. They played their freshman, Duke Clark, a little bit here, sprinkled them in here and there. But really it's Baugh and Jackson that carry the load. You mentioned Baugh's averaging 6.5 yards a carry. He's only got 37 carries to this point. Jacoby Jackson's averaging less than 3 yards a carry. So, again, this is a Gators team that has talent, that has players that can make plays for them. They just haven't done it yet. I mean, the offense just has not sort of gotten going. Let's take a look at their receiver room really quick. Carlos, you look at
oh, wow,
the freshman.
Complimenting me, calling me the big O.
Yeah, I accidentally called you. Oh, I apologize. There's so many shows I do with him. Vernell Brown, the freshman, is leading them in receiving right now with 16 catches for 197 yards. Still hasn't scored a touchdown. Hayden Hansen, their tight end, is the next leading receiver, 13 catches, 117 yards, and a touchdown. And then the transfer from UCLA, J. Michael Sturdenvant, who's played a ton, only has 7 catches for 71 yards and a touchdown. Trey Wilson next with 14 catches for 66 yards. I never would have imagined that a kid like Trey Wilson would have a receiving yard average under 5.
I lost you there. We're having the internet issues again.
All right, we're back. Apologize.
We're stressing the internet. Stressing out your internet with too much information there. That was stressing the internet out.
I was stressing it out. I apologize. So we were talking about the Gators. I was going over some of their receiving numbers. Let's move on to their offensive line, which is actually pretty good, Carlos, because I want to just talk about that group here for a minute. flash the names here in front of you. A little bit of change for them this last game. They started Caden Jones at right tackle against LSU. Bryce Lovett came off the bench, so they've made a little bit of a switch there. Damian George, when you look at the snap counts, he started all of the games, but basically the right side of their line is the one that's started to see some substitutes. People were talking about this Gator offensive line being top 5 in the country. I think they've done a pretty good job giving Lagway time to throw. In fact, when you look at it, 5 of his 6 picks have come from a clean pocket.
Yeah, and they're a really solid run block and a pass blocking group. Barber has an 87.7, Slaughter has an 85.7, Harris has an 87.2, and Damian George Jr. has an 83.7. So you've got 4 guys in the 80s in terms of pass blocking. Their run blocking numbers are good too. They're okay. They're not as good as their pass blocking numbers, but their offensive line is solid. So you can't blame that on DJ Lagway's struggles. It's just a situation where either he's not processing, the calls maybe not there, or guys aren't getting open.
Yeah, and obviously they're going to have their hands full with Ruben Bain. LSU's defensive line got some pressure on Lagway, but again, 5 of his 6 picks with a clean pocket. So let's take a look at Florida's defensive front, their linebackers and their defensive linemen. Some interesting numbers here. Number 1, Caleb Banks, who finally got into the starting lineup. Carlos, he was their best defensive lineman. Probably not going to return this season. He got injured in that LSU game. LJ McCray, a huge signee for them, 5-star recruit, only played 4 snaps to this point for the Gators. And when you look at their defense and the guys that are basically contributing for them, George Gums is the main guy for him. He's got 2.5 tackles for loss. Again, I mentioned they only have 2 sacks as a team. Tyreek Sapp has the 1 sack to this point. Just not getting a lot of pressure. I think the lowest pressure rate among Power 4 schools the Gators have to this point.
And that's going to be a problem. If you can't get pressure on Carson Beck, he's going to dice you up. He's shown that already. He's very efficient. He knows the offense well already. He processes well, finds the open man. And he's not only looking at one read. He's not coming off a quick read. He's processing the field and looking for the open man. He's done that a few times already. So they're in trouble. They're the best defensive player right now so far to me is Miles Graham. He's playing really well for them, leads them in tackles at linebacker. But outside of that, it's been tough. They're a really good defense as a unit. I think their secondary is very good, but if they can't get pressure on Carson Beck, it's going to be a long day.
Yeah, it really is. One interesting note. I mean, they signed this guy Pup Howard from South Carolina last year, and it's interesting that this guy's not even the starter anymore. They've basically moved on from him. So when the Gators can talk about what went wrong, some of the guys they identified in the portal a year ago haven't really panned out for them. It's basically been homegrown guys for them that are getting the job done, and they didn't take a lot of guys in the portal this year. So let's look at their secondary here for a minute. If I can get the graphic up here, Carlos, there it is. Gators secondary, 1 interception to this point. That's Dijon Johnson, a recruit that Miami was fighting to get. You look at Cormani McLean cracked the starting lineup against LSU. They've shuffled guys in there at the different cornerback spots. But again, this is a unit that hasn't given up a ton of big plays, and I thought did a good job against Garrett Nussmeier and that LSU offense.
Yeah, they did. Nussmeier didn't go off on him. They did a good job against him. And it's going to be fun to see Cormani McLean out on the field, right? At Hard Rock. Let's see if he gets picked on a little bit.
Yeah, we'll see if what Miami throws at him this coming week. All right, Carlos, I want to get to the mailbag. That was the Gators breakdown for you guys. I'm gonna take a look here at Twitter. I asked for mailbag questions. I think we got a few, but let's see what we actually got here. Number 1. Let's see here, Carlos. The first question on the list. This is from Larry. Our buddy Larry, Larry Shender, who always sends us questions. Would you take last year's receivers over this year's? To me, I take this year. What would you do, Carlos? After 3 games, are you ready to give up on Xavier Restrepo, Jacoby George, and the group that they had a year ago?
And Isaiah Horton.
And Isaiah Horton.
Listen, I think for overall production, you definitely want Restrepo, right? I think you love Malachi Tony, but I think Restrepo, the season he put together last year was impressive. It was worthy of first team All-ACC in my opinion. I think at this point they have room to grow. I think those guys last year, they were at their ceiling. You were witnessing a group of guys that was at their ceiling. I think Malachi Tony still has a lot to grow, room to grow. I think you still got some guys on that side of the ball that still have room to grow. Like we saw this past week, we saw some guys making plays that hadn't made plays to this point. So we don't know yet. To me, it's too early to tell, to be honest. But I am excited about the ceiling of what this receiver room can reach. I think the floor maybe is lower with the guys from last year, but I think the ceiling may be a little bit higher with these guys this year.
I think if Elijah Lofton emerges at tight end here over the next few weeks, I would say I would take this receiver group because I think you get more consistency from Malachi Nelson and CJ Daniels and Josh Moore than you did Restrepo, George, and Horton. George would always give you some sort of boneheaded penalty. I haven't seen that from this group at all. I also really like their downfield blocking. I think you need to give them credit for how well those receivers are blocking down the field. But the tight end is a non-factor right now. Elijah Arroyo is heads and tails better, and that's a different option this offense doesn't have right now. So that's the only reason I would stick with last year's group at the moment. This question is from Sam Knowlton. The Canes were last ranked number 1 in the AP poll in December of 2002. Will this be the year they make it back? Side note, they only need 3 weeks at number 1 to pass Nebraska and 5 weeks to pass FSU on the all-time list. We talked about this earlier, Carlos. I think if they beat Florida and Florida State here in the next 3 weeks, they'll probably ascend to number 1. Now, I will say this. Penn State is playing Oregon on September 27th. If Penn State has a huge win like that, they might vault ahead of Miami. But I think the best opportunity for the Canes to climb to number 1 is Penn State losing and some really impressive performances against the Gators and Seminoles.
Yeah, and I think that the chances of them being number 1 are ratcheted up if they win those 2 games by large margins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what I mean. I think that's the chance. Absolutely. All right, this is from Andrew Cuttybag. He says, is Carlos on board with Shannon Dawson and the playbook? He has PTSD like all of us old school Cane fans, but this team is different. See you boys in Vegas. Go Canes.
Listen, I will continue to say this, right? I don't hate Shannon Dawson. I just think he tends to be a little bit predictable, especially in the second half of games. You saw the third quarter lull against South Florida, right? We saw that offense hit the brakes and have that shutdown that it has every game, or at least games that matter. They have that shutdown, and then the defense luckily bailed them out this time because they were able to hold the other team down. And then they got the ball rolling again in the fourth quarter. But there's going to come a time where I think some of the things that I think are disappointing about Shannon Dawson rear their head. I thought he did a very good job against South Florida. I thought he called a very good game. I thought the trick play, the reverse, was something they haven't pulled out before that was nice to see. But I think ultimately it's going to be the ACC conference play that makes a determination as to whether or not this team goes to where they want to go and whether or not Shannon Dawson can call the offense in a way that gets them there. But I think they're so balanced this year that it may not make a difference. I don't think Shannon Dawson can get in their way and hamper them.
I like the T formation setup that they had near the goal line. The first time they ran play action and Beck ended up keeping the ball. I thought he did a fantastic job scoring that touchdown. And then I thought the next time that they used it, which was late in the game in the fourth quarter when they already had the game in hand, to throw the ball to Chamar Brown out of the backfield and hit it. That's the kind of stuff that tells me Shannon Dawson
is listening to the podcast.
Yeah, I think he can be a better play caller with a more balanced offense. I think part of the issue he had last year was this wasn't a team that could run the football as well as this one does. And I think Miami has improved as a run blocking team because of Samson Okunlola and because they have a little bit more depth at that running back. I mean, at the running back and offensive line. And I think it's coming together where he can be a little bit better play caller because of the balance.
And I think this year, at least this game, he showed that he can evolve a little bit and add a couple more wrinkles that he hasn't shown before over the last couple years.
All right, this is from Jason Real Hip Hop, another longtime contributor. Defensively, do you see us capable of mixing coverages and taking advantage of Lagway's lack of confidence? And if so, do we have a top 15 defense? Let's actually look to see where Miami is ranked right now in total defense. I'm going to look this up in terms of yards per play, because that's the category. It's not really yards, yards per game. It's yards per play. Right now, Miami ranks 48th in yards per play, 4.73. I think obviously some of that is skewed because it's the opponents that they've faced versus some other teams that haven't necessarily faced anybody yet that's that difficult. And then in terms of scoring defense, Miami ranks 28th. I think
Yeah.
I think that they have a chance to be a top 25 defense statistically, but I think a big part of it is going to be safety play going forward. Do those guys, if you go back and you look at the USF game, there were several instances where the safeties were out of position and linebackers were out of position. I mentioned Motori before being out of position. If he can clean that up in ACC play going forward, and those things happen less frequently than they have here the first couple games, then they can be a dominating, national championship winning defense. But I think you still have to have a little bit of apprehension because those mistakes are still happening right now.
It's concerning because Torrey's had those breakdowns every game so far.
Right.
He's had breakdowns in coverages. He hasn't been in the right spot. He's missed a couple
setting
tackles.
The edge.
Right. I think to me, ultimately, probably their best linebacker group is with him off the field and with Popo on the field, along with either Basainth and Chase Daniel, right? Or Chase
Smith.
Jeez, Chase I just named 3 different Chases. Chevy Chase. Chase the dog. I don't know. But and also, talking about the safeties, people were calling me crazy the first couple of weeks of the season, saying, "Oh, what are you talking about? You're just hating on the safeties. Why are you hating on the safeties?" How about now?
Yeah. You're not hating on them. It's just we're pointing it out, and I'm sure Corey Heatherman is pointing it out too. Listen, these guys are night and day different than they were a year ago. There's less confusion. The breakdowns are more one guy. It's not 5 guys in the secondary not being where they're supposed to be. It's one guy at linebacker or one guy at safety, and they're still doing a good job sort of recovering and swarming and getting to the ball anyway, even when those guys make a mistake.
That's the impressive part, is that they give up the big play and they get back, they recover, they don't let it kill them, and they bounce back the next series as well. So I think it's very impressive so far.
It is. Carlos, did you guys win in volleyball? What's the record now?
We played one game, 0-1. We have a second game tomorrow. We were rained out of another one last week, but this was the number 1 team in the conference that beat us last year on the JV 25-3, 25-6. We lost 25-6 the first set, but then 25-13 the second set. We played a lot better, but still long ways to go. But it's hard to get better when you can't practice since you have an outdoor court because of all the rain.
Well, we've only the Navarro household has only gotten 1 win so far. We're 1-1 in my oldest daughter's soccer team. Her travel team's 1-1. And my youngest Olivia 0-1 in basketball and 0-1 in middle school soccer. So, but it was a 2-1 game called at the half because of lightning. So unfortunately, the storms down here have been killing us. I only bring this up, Carlos, because somebody asked me here, what is my philosophy in the pick and roll game as a basketball coach? You are a lot smarter than me when it comes to actually coaching, actually pick and roll defense. What is your approach, Carlos, to the pick and roll defense?
I think it depends on who's doing the picking and the rolling and who your defenders are, what your team is set up as. I think if you've got guys that you can use to switch, if you could switch it, you do it. Another philosophy is to attack the guy with the ball to try and disrupt the roll and disrupt the screen. The other way, the way I was taught when I was defending the ball, was to get skinny on the ball, get across it, get your leg over the top on the guy as they're coming to screen. So that way you can sort of hedge it and play both ways and have your guy hedge out and help you so you can recover and get back. So it all depends. It also depends on whether or not the guy with the ball and the guy rolling is a shooter or not, or if it's a big. So there's different ways to play it, man. If you think you can trap the ball on that pick and roll, you trap it and disrupt it that way, because if your defenders are taller than the point guard or the guy with the ball running the pick and roll, you could disrupt it completely. So it all depends. Like it's not just a one size fits all answer, and it also depends on your defensive system.
My coaching of this is a group of 10 to 12-year-old girls at Cooper City Optimist is to let the shooter shoot, because most girls in our league cannot shoot.
Right.
Cover the stay in the paint, keep the shooter out of the paint, don't give her the easy shot, make it from distance. So we will sag
Yeah, there.
off
Yeah, there
and
you can
play
play
the
off and play
little
behind it.
a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yes. Let the shooters shoot, because they usually don't make it in our league. All right, thank you for teaming up with me again for another episode. I'm gonna have to edit this one because of the internet issues that we had. But what's your prediction? What's the final score for Saturday?
Man, I think the Canes win by at least 17.
Wow, by at least 17. All right,
At
I'm
least
gonna say
17. I think
Miami.
they cover.
I'm gonna say Miami 27, Gators 14. They
All
cover.
right.
But I think it'll be 27-14, something, maybe 27-13, something like that. I just think Florida's defense will show up. Maybe they can't put any pressure on Carson Beck, but I don't know. This is a huge game for Billy Napier and that entire program. They're going to show up emotional and ready to play.
I think if Lagway keeps turning the ball over and they give the Hurricanes short fields, it's going to be a problem for the Gators.
Oh yeah, it could be a blowout, but I'm not picking a blowout yet. I'm not picking a blowout going into this game.
All right.
All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in to Wide Right. We'll be back next week. Talk about what should be a Canes win. See ya.
Peace.